Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Startup Zone Talk. Today I'm here with Harry van der Veen. He's a multi-award winning CEO and the co-founder of NUITEQ, a Swedish collaborative software company that has developed remote education and remote working solutions. He's one of the first people in the world who engineered a multi-touch display prototype before the Apple iPhone was launched. During his study together with several students, he developed the multi-touch technology, which led to starting the company NUITEQ. Today, the company has around 45 staff in Sweden, India, USA, Brazil, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and Canada. NUITEQ has customers in over 70 countries around the world, including companies like Intel and Lenovo. In his free time, Harry enjoys watching shows like Shark Tank and Dragon Den. He is a believer in karma and has an attitude of paying it forward. His motto is, "A day without laughter is a day wasted." Welcome to our show, Harry.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, my brother. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us at Startup Zone Talk. So let's start right away. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up? What type of student you were back at school?
Right, absolutely. So I'm originally from the Netherlands, and I moved 13 years ago. I moved to Sweden. So growing up, I wasn't always really like the smartest student. I'd like to believe I always wasn't the dumbest either, but I was kind of like in the middle. And yeah, in primary education was, quite, kind of easy or normal going for me. But it got more complicated once I started going to secondary education. A lot of my friends, they had to read like a textbook once, and they really easily remembered things. And for me, I had to read things like 4 or 5 times before I really remembered the things. So for me, education has always been a very interesting topic, and that's why I eventually became an entrepreneur within education technology. So growing up,
interesting what you said, because I had the similar thing. In primary school, actually, I was very good student, but as I moved to secondary school, my performance dropped. In your opinion, why do you think that?
For me, like, the switch was quite big. We started to have a lot of different subjects like science, biology, geography, history, and economy, all those kind of things. So it was quite a lot of wide range of topics, really, that was quite complicated. And I think once you get to a certain age, you also maybe, in my case, for example, got less interested in learning and just more hanging out with friends as well, and playing games and those kind of things. So I think maybe that contribute a little bit to the less good performance as well.
I see. Okay, great. I think your parents was from education background. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. So both my parents, they were actually teachers. My dad was a head teacher for a school, and even my sister, she's also a teacher. And they always told me like, "Oh man, you have to become a teacher because as a teacher, you have job stability, you have a lot of holidays, so it's really convenient." And I remember one time when I was like 12. I was asked to take care of a group of younger kids. Sometimes when the teacher of the younger kids had to go out for like half an hour, they asked like the older students to take care of them. And I had like 30 of these kids running around like they were 4 years old. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to be a teacher. It's too much stress, But it's kind of fun that eventually I still got into education.
Okay, so your parents from education, you had some challenges during your student time with education, but what inspired you to become an entrepreneur? Is there anybody who was a role model for you, or you just discovered it by yourself?
Well, it's kind of funny because I actually, during my studies of communication, multimedia, and design, which led to me moving to Sweden to start my own company, I actually did an entrepreneurship class as well. And my teacher was telling me, like, be prepared to work for almost no salary, live on water and bread if you want to be an entrepreneur. And I thought, oh no, my goodness, this is definitely not something for me. So I dropped out of that class. So it's kind of funny that I still ended up as an entrepreneur. But my dad, he was really an inspiration to me. He was always very entrepreneurial, always had a lot of kind of side hustles where, he had a camping site, he was renting out the caravans, he had a furniture shop, he was trading horses, buying caravans and selling them, and cars. So he was always very kind of entrepreneurial spirited. So he's really an inspiration for me. So I've talked to you about this before, but for the listeners as well, like my dad a couple of years ago, he got diagnosed with cancer, and when I was on a business trip thank you. So when I was on a business trip to London, actually, my brother in the Netherlands, he called me and he said, like, your dad is in the hospital and looks like he's not gonna make it through the night. So maybe you can come back to Holland tomorrow. And then the next day, he had already like passed away. But the evening before, when we had the call, he connected with me on Skype, and my dad, he basically asked me the question, how is sales going? So he was always very interested in how the business was going. So for me, it's a big inspiration that the last question that he asked me through my brother on Skype when I was on a business trip, how is business going? It's kind of an inspiration for me to just do the best possible job that I can as an entrepreneur to push our company forward.
That's, I think, a true entrepreneurship spirit, and I think he will be today looking. He will be up, looking down, and be proud of you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I like to believe so too.
Yeah, I really believe in that. So maybe moving forward to starting, you mentioned how you were in Sweden and you started. You were talking with your classmate, and then you started NUITEQ. Can you tell us how it started, how you pivoted from the hardware to the software to the education tech? Because I know a bit about your journey. So how you pivot and what the solutions that you provide today?
Right. So basically, as a part of my graduation project of the communication, multimedia, and design education, I moved to Sweden, and I was one of the first people in the world that engineered a touchscreen prototype, as you mentioned in the intro. And during that project in Sweden, we got a lot of commercial interest for what we were doing. People asking, like, can we buy this technology? Is it commercially available? So we said, like, sure, but I guess we have to start a company. So during the graduation project, we decided to start the company. And initially, we created both hardware, multi-touch displays, as well as software, because there were virtually no hardware solutions out there. But we knew that over time, big companies in Asia would come up with far better solutions, more cost efficient and higher quality. So we always had in mind that we wanted to pivot. So after about 2 years, some hardware companies started to come onto the market, and that's when we stepped away from selling hardware and really started to focus on the software. So we've done a couple of pivots throughout the year, so from hardware to software, but also from addressing a lot of different market verticals like retail, museums, education, businesses, etc., to really focus only on 2 areas, because I read that a lot of companies fail just because they want to try to do too many things at the same time. So we really decided to focus on education, and then things really started to take off for us. And today we really focused on education as well as corporate meeting rooms. And essentially today we have 2 main products areas that we focus on. So one is remote education and in-class education, which is a product called NUITEQ Snowflake. And in addition to that, we also have a product for remote collaboration, remote working, which is called NUITEQ Stage. So Snowflake is a software suite of collaborative learning games. And a Stage is a collaboration solution similar to like Zoom and Teams, but we're really focused on the collaborative aspect, like interactive whiteboards, sharing of content, sharing of information, and we see the video and audio more kind of as an additional feature. So that has really started to take off the last couple of months with this trend of people working from home.
Yeah, very cool. So you mentioned that about how you pivoted, but during your journey, and I want to ask you later your opinion about raising fund and having a co-founder, but I want to know first about your company and your experience. So during your journey, did you immediately go and raise fund, or did you bootstrap, or how did you make the company survive and to be what it is today?
Right. So we survived pretty much from the get-go because we already had customers from day one. That's why we started the company.
Amazing.
And we were very passionate about the technology. So those were the two main reasons why we started. And we ran the company. We bootstrapped it pretty much for like 2 years. Then we got a regional investor to invest into the company, which allowed us to hire some more software developers as well as more salespeople and really accelerate the growth of the company. And then roughly 5 years ago, we got another investor, which allowed us also to further accelerate our growth. So, it really depends on what kind of company you are. But for us, it was, 2 years of bootstrap and then get some funding. And we also have a very good relationship with our bank, which was especially helpful in the beginning, having a loan and being able to have that financial support.
Okay, great. So let's say if somebody's starting today, and of course it depends on what business they are, it may vary from case to case. So do you advise people to look for co-founder, or they can start solo and then find a co-founder, or maybe not? And don't you think nowadays, like, there are not many companies who do bootstrapping? Everybody's just looking to raise capital. Do you think that's a healthy thing or not?
I think that it's very good to think about a co-founder, because it's going to be a long journey. Potentially it's going to be like 10 years of working together. And there are successful companies that only have one founder. But I feel that if you're with multiple people, you can bounce ideas off of each other. You can get inspired by each other. You can get that energy. So I personally would always recommend to have a co-founder. If you start a technology company, they typically say, try to have like 3 kind of positions. Like one person is the business person, the other one is like the programmer, and the third one is the designer. Try to have those kind of 3 main competences in place. And in regards to bootstrapping, I agree with you. It feels that very much a lot of companies these days try to raise a lot of venture capital just with an idea. And we didn't take that approach. And I think there's a big value in not taking the approach of trying to raise too much money, because I think it's very important to have the mindset from the beginning to try to build a business that is sustainable on its own, can live off the revenue and the sales from the customers, because then you're really focused on solving the problem of the customer. Whereas if you have a couple of $1 million of venture capital in the bank, you're less worried about it, because the salary is going to be there for the next 2 years.
Yeah. You're not hungry for yeah. Exactly. I got what you mean. Okay, since I think you in the intro I mentioned that you like Shark Tank and Dragon Den. Can you tell me who is your favorite person or investor on Shark Tank?
Oh gosh, I like Kevin O'Leary.
Oh really?
I mean he sounds harsh, but I think this is mainly just like a facade. It's part of the show. I think he is very funny. That's one of the main reasons. And I also think he's fair. If entrepreneurs have an idea and he thinks it's a waste of time, he will tell them, because it's a waste of time. You potentially might spend years on an idea, and if it's not viable, you're wasting time and money. So I think he is very funny. So and he has also built a very successful full business in the entertainment space. So it's I think
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he is the type of person, either you like him or you hate him, like, because he's so much himself and he don't care what people think. He will just speak his mind. Yeah, but he's also one of my favorite. Maybe as I watch the show more, I start to like him more. Maybe in the beginning I was a bit like, I would never partner with somebody like that. But as I watch him, and he has his own YouTube channel, and he share a lot of stuff, and he answer people questions. So I start to like him over the show.
Yeah, I saw that as well, that he started the YouTube channel. So I've been watching some of his videos. I think it's good stuff, and I think that's also really interesting. In my free time, I just like to watch YouTube, look at venture capitalists, entrepreneurs, see what you can learn from them. You can learn a lot.
Yeah, correct. Also, he's, I think, different from everyone else. I feel he's more educated. He know a lot about history, about different cultures, because he travel around. And so I think that's one also unique thing about him.
Yeah, I think he is very well traveled. As I think his dad used to work in a lot of different countries around the world. I think he is part Lebanese and part Irish, and has been traveling to many different places. So I think that is a really kind of good base for his future, and he's obviously very successful.
I think his stepdad, because I think when I saw his profile video, he mentioned, I think his father passed away, but his stepdad took care of him and teach him a lot of things. Moving forward, now the world going through the COVID-19 pandemic. So I would like to know from you how you are coping, especially you have staff around in many countries around the world, and each country has a different way of dealing with the situation. And then also your customers. Also, I think some of your products, since it's related to education, it's related to corporate collaboration, I think maybe it is a good opportunity for you. So maybe you tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started the company NUITEQ 13 years ago, we always had our remote working in our DNA. We were always distributed in teams all around the world. We have had offices in India and in different countries. So for us, making the switch to working from home was not really a big switch. And I think, in Sweden, they're quite taking a different approach to many countries when it comes to the coronavirus. And, I think it's a completely new situation for the world in this time and age. And nobody really knows what the best way is. And, only in a couple of years from now, we will know what the right approach was. But I have some thoughts that I think Sweden could have done things better, but I'm no expert, so it's just guesswork really. But what you said is right. As people started to work from home and started to educate from home, we started to actually see quite a significant increase in interest for our solutions, like Snowflake for remote education, as well as Stage for remote collaboration. So unfortunately, the situation is really bad for many companies, but we actually have started to see like an upside to it as well. And of course, some of our customers, they having challenges, but we also feel at the same time that there's light at the end of the tunnel. I think in March a lot of people got shocked, but I think in April people start to realize business goes on, life goes on. And we're doing deals in Hong Kong and in China and in Korea and countries in Asia. So that we are already continuing to do business in those kind of countries is a really good prospect for the future, that we're heading in the right direction.
Amazing. I don't know if you read Elon Musk has a different opinion. Like, Sweden, you guys didn't lock down your country. Like, the government bet on people responsibility, and they do social distancing. So they leave it up to the people. They just tell the people to be responsible. While in some countries, like in US or even here in Malaysia, in Singapore, in many countries. I think majority of countries around the world, what they did is they asked everybody to stay at home, and if you leave home not for essential things, you can pay fine, or you can be even arrested and go to jail. So Elon Musk put a tweet and he said, "Free America now," because he cannot operate his factory, and he's an entrepreneur, and for an entrepreneur, the business is everything. The business is like a baby. And I don't know if you know, there is one, how I call him, a YouTuber. His name Patrick Pitt David. He has a lot of very useful videos about entrepreneurship. So he put a video also saying why I didn't stop working during pandemic, and he explained that even people think they are saving lives by asking everybody to stay at home and not to work, but at the same time they are forgetting that people will still die. Like dying or death is part of our life. And if they didn't die because of Corona, they may die because of suicide, because of depression, because of crime rate. Like, for example, if you're not letting people to go to work and make money, and the government aid is actually a joke in most countries, like you cannot depend on it, then people will start, stealing, do stuff, and eventually they will die. So what are your thoughts on it? If you are a leader, would you lock down your country, or would you depend on people doing social distancing and being responsible?
Yeah, I saw the video pop up on my stream on YouTube as well from this guy. So I'm actually having it on my list to check it out. Thankfully, I'm not a leader in the country, because you're likely going to make many mistakes. Just same way that as an entrepreneur you make mistakes and you learn. But when I started to first see coronavirus coming out, I would have thought at an earlier stage, like, to be more careful, and Sweden took kind of a slower approach to that. So if I would have been a leader, I would have done that differently, maybe closed the borders earlier. But like you said, it's also very challenging. I think, of course, there's benefits to people being at home, but at the same time, you start seeing things like violence at home, domestic violence go up, get more depressed, people are more likely to commit suicide. There's been cases of people just going out and shooting people, and like you said as well, like, people will die anyway, and a lot of these people that maybe died from COVID-19, they had a lot of kind of underlying health issues, so maybe they would have passed away anyway in 2-3 years. Nevertheless, it's extremely, extremely sad. So it's a tough situation, Nobody really knows what the right approach is, and it's hard. And I understand the way that Elon Musk is thinking. Many entrepreneurs are thinking as well. In a way, life goes on, but you have to be careful at the same time as well.
Yeah, it's a very delicate and difficult situation, and I think people or the leaders, no matter I think what they do, they will find somebody who think opposite and will be upset. So if they just ask people to stay at home, the business people and the people who need to work, who they cannot just sit at home and eat from where, they will be upset. And if they ask people to go and do whatever they want, then people who are afraid to get sick, they will be upset. So yeah, it's really, no matter what you do, I think there is no right way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, let's move forward to my last question. So what is your advice for people who maybe are starting now to starting a business, or for people who are going through challenges now with this situation? Do you have any advice for them?
If I look back on my 13 years at NUITEQ, one of the things that I would have done earlier, reflecting on this, is would have gotten an advisor at an earlier stage, somebody that has the experience, that has gone through a similar journey before, that you can learn from, learn from his or her mistakes, or learn what he or she has done really well. So I have a mentor that has helped me a lot in the last couple of years, and that has been extremely valuable. So my advice would be, if you're an entrepreneur, try to find somebody that has that kind of seniority and has that experience that you can learn from. And in regards to advice,
do you think should look for a mentor and ask him, like somebody you respect or somebody like that, or do you mean having an advisor in the company that you give him some shares because of sitting as an advisor?
Yeah, but both is possible. Doesn't necessarily have to be in exchange for shares in the company. But at the same time, if a person is incentivized through ownership, they will obviously do a better job, I think. So in our case, we did do that, where we brought a person on board that had that kind of experience and incentivized him through ownership in the company as well. And that's been really a pivotal change to the company, and really helped to bring NUITEQ where it is today. So I think it's very important to try to find a good mentor.
Amazing. So at the end, Harry, thank you very much for joining us in Startup Zone Talk. We really learned a lot of you, and your story is really an amazing story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. Shukran. Thank you.
No
Bye-bye.
Okay. And our viewers, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in another episode with another great guest. Bye-bye.
Bye.